Welcome to Encountering Jesus Now, where I'm going to be discussing the whole matter of whether there really is a God. This is important because so many people today are not convinced that God actually exists. All of us see life from different perspectives. We have various ways that we view life, various belief systems, customs, and worldviews. All of this greatly impacts our beliefs concerning the basic question, do you believe there is a God? Or, to put it another way, do you believe that God exists? Let me first clarify what I mean when I use the word God. I mean an all-powerful, perfectly good creator of the world who has always been and who always will be. Nearly all people will give a quick yes or no answer when asked this basic question. This matter is a settled matter in their mind. However, if your answer is no, the answer does greatly impact your worldview. The impact of this no answer lies at the heart of life's ultimate purpose and meaning. If you believe such a God does not exist, then your worldview of life looks completely different from someone who believes that such a God does exist. If you believe that God does not exist, then life began just as a series of random happenings, accidental occurrences, and there is no real explanation of how or why creation or even life exists. Any meaning, values, or purpose is merely a subjective personal one that you assign to your life. Although setting purpose and meaning to our lives may help fill a void you feel as you relate to others and to the events that are happening in your life, ultimately they carry no real significance to the ages that come. Eventually, significance for your life fades away as you take the long view of things. Life becomes meaningless. Many who don't believe that there is a God have concluded, just like the British philosopher Bertrand Russell, we have no choice but to build our lives upon the firm foundation of unyielding despair. Another impact of the answer no that you give to this question involves the whole issue of good and bad, or said another way, good and evil. At the heart of this issue is the whole matter of morality. Basic morality is a discussion about a set of absolutes as to what behavior is good and what behavior is bad. If we do not believe that God exists, then there is no entity that exists to assign laws of what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is bad or evil. Any moral code is merely a set of behaviors that are relative to what is accepted as good or bad by the culture, government, or an individual. In order to have any absolute moral law, there must be a moral lawgiver, a person of absolute authority and absolute purity who fully understands what is good and what is evil. This person has to be someone who is perfect in all his ways. For this reason, the famous atheist Richard Dawkins has said, we have to deny the reality of evil. Because admitting that there is some things that are absolutely evil is logically leaving the door open to the reality of some lawgiver. Dawkins has concluded that he must instead deny the reality of evil. So for Dawkins and others who do not believe that there is a God, they have concluded that no behavior is inherently evil. So the atrocities of the gas chambers under the regime of Adolf Hitler are not necessarily evil. The exploitations of the young children as sex objects is not necessarily evil. The killing of millions of unborn babies is not necessarily evil. There is not a line that can be crossed that defines an act of evil. It is merely a matter of what is acceptable by someone or some group of people and what is not. What a mess this line of thinking leaves mankind in. So because some German felt exterminating an inferior race was a good thing, it in fact could not be called evil. What a group of men felt was necessary to fulfill their sexual drive, exploiting young children, it cannot be called evil. Or because a group of people felt that it was their right to end the life of an unborn child because having that child would inconvenience them or take away their freedom, we cannot call that evil. Having offered these thoughts, I want to use the remainder of this discussion time on this video, offering thoughts as to why there is a God. This single belief will drastically impact your worldview, your purpose for life, and your ability to have a genuine, real encounter with Jesus. Let me begin by making this statement before I begin to share the case for believing that there is a God. There is no way to prove with 100% certainty or with absolute evidence that there is a God. Belief that there is a God will involve some level of faith. However, this faith is not baseless. I want to offer a fact-based set of arguments to support major reasons why believing that there is a God is both a very probable reality and a very reasonable conclusion in the view of those facts. The first argument has to do with the axiom, whatever begins to exist has a cause. This simply boils down to an issue of origins. Nothing begins from nothing. Wherever the beginning point of creation is, it had to have something or someone there to cause it to exist. For most of man's existence, this something or someone was given the title of God. The second argument has to do with the complexity of everything we see that exists. Our solar system, our planet, and even our own body point to both a designer and a sustainer. The intricate design of each of the entities is unbelievable. Whether you look at the human body and all of the systems that must function properly to sustain life, or look at the design being passed on through the fantastically sophisticated genetic code found in each person's DNA, you are left that the odds of this design to happen by chance is mathematically astronomical. The same conclusion is reached when you look at the ecosystem of our planet, with its laws of nature, gravity and such, or the constant speed of our planets as they travel through space, the constant speed of light, our Earth's rotation in a consistent 24-hour pattern, as well as so many other things that we can quickly see through science. As you look at the interaction of our planets as it has with other stars and planets or other entities, or even as you look at the bear witness to the complex design that exists in everything that we observe. The question that has to come from all of this is it reasonable to believe that this all happens by chance. A third argument I would offer is this whole mystery of morality. We've already discussed this when I shared with you the impact of not believing that there is a God, so I won't repeat that discussion again here. I do want to submit here that both research in anthropology and psychology indicates that people across different cultures do share a core set of basic moral values. In their moral foundations theory, Jonathan Haidt and Craig Joseph offer an account that integrates universality and cultural variation. They propose that our moral mind is partially structured in advance of experience, predisposing people across the cultures to be concerned about the following 5 moral dimensions. Number 1, harm and care, concerns for the suffering of others. Number 2, fairness and reciprocity, concerns about unfair treatment, cheating, justice, and rights. Number 3, in-group loyalty, concerns related to obligations of group membership, such as loyalty and self-sacrifice and vigilance against betrayal. Number 4, authority and respect, concerns related to social order, obedience, respect, and fulfillment of role-based duties. And number 5, concerns about physical and spiritual issues like chastity, wholesomeness, and control of desires. In conclusion, the article, The Moral Law Within, in the September 26, 2018 issue of Forbes magazine, concludes with this statement: a moral faculty is an evolutionary necessity. Without it, social life would be impossible. We would likely still live in caves. Aristotle was onto something when he observed that we are adapted by nature to receive moral virtues, but that it takes habit for their complete formation. A basic capacity for moral judgment is hardwired in our brain from birth. It is then further developed over time as a function of cognitive development, cultural experience, and practice. If these observations are true, what are the odds that this set of basic moral instincts would reoccur in humans over and over again? My final piece of evidence is this. There are the statements of people throughout the centuries of history who claim that their lives were changed in radical ways after putting their faith and trust in a God. Although these testimonies vary in specific ways, they were changed through the common thread that they often attribute to supernatural healings, divine help, a totally different life focus, or to some other manifestation that they attribute to God. These testimonies, though subjective, cannot be dismissed because of the sheer number of these accounts. As I stated at the very beginning, there is no way to prove with 100% certainty that God exists. However, these realities bring up absolute and observable areas of evidence that make it reasonable to conclude that there is a supernatural being, a being who's set the whole universe into existence and continues to keep it in order. This does, in fact, fit the description of being a God. It's now time for each person to individually decide whether to acknowledge or reject this body of evidence. No one can ever expect to have an encounter with Jesus if they cannot conclude that there is a God. That is because Jesus claimed to be God. He claimed to be God appearing in the flesh. History has never denied that Jesus lived here on earth. The controversy comes as we discuss whether Jesus is who he said he was. That discussion is for a different video on another day, but don't miss the point of this discussion. You must decide whether you can, in the light of the evidence presented by faith, come to the conclusion that there is a God who created this entire universe and who also continues to keep the elements of this universe functioning in a cosmic and divine order. What do you say?